Oh, we're on air. Hey, cool. And I'm here. The camera's here. All right. Hey, welcome everybody to the IVS 360 BMW Update webinar series. My name is Eric Sharping, and you'll have to forgive me if my camera pops in and out. It's due to internet connection. It's not that I'm leaving. I'm here. But BMW, the IVS 360 webinar series. This will be the second. Can you hear me? Oh. This will be the second in the series, and we're planning to schedule these every month, and we'll be adding other car lines for these update webinars. Today I have, as like last time, I have with me Brian Chaff. He's the lead. I'm going to give him a raise every time I talk about him. Lead technical director for Opus IVS and the head of BMW development. That is Brian Chaff, and he disappeared. So, Brian, welcome when he comes back. And also with me, I have the Diagnostic Dynamo and Support Desk Samurai, Brandon Matthews. Oh, Brandon.
Hello, thank you.
Yeah. And as this series goes on, our intention is to see more of our support staff. Brian will remain with the presentations, and we will be rotating support staff through from our respective support desks on the New York and West Coast Huntington Beach office. So next month, you can expect that Brandon will be hosting, and we'll have a new support person along with Brian for the updates. All right, that said, introductions there. Let me go ahead and squeak in some shameless promotion. Not really shameless. DrivePro ES. So the webinar series is brought to you courtesy of Opus IVS and IVS 360, proudly offering DrivePro, DrivePro ES, Cardac, wrap, crash tools, and support for the automotive industry, whether it be a large group or a individual mobile tech. We've got your tool, we've got your support. With the webinar series, we always offer some kind of promotion, and this month we're going to have we have our webinar offer number 1, and this is if you're joining us and you don't happen to have a DrivePro ES in your hands yet. You're considering purchasing one. We have, of course, we still have the 0 money down, no payments for 90 days deal that's been ongoing. But what we're offering along with that is a free docking station, about a $500 value. So you get it has one Ethernet connection and 3 USB ports, power adapter, a power cord, and some LED indicators to indicate the status of your docking and charging. Really makes the angle of the tool easier for work off of a desktop or a workbench. That's a nice little feature. And if you already have a DrivePro or DrivePro ES, we've got a discount for you as well, 25% off the docking station. And you'll just refer to the BMW Update webinar as the promo, and that'll get you moving forward with one of our sales individuals for the webinar updates. And at this point, I'll back up there for a minute. I'm going to step on Brian's toe. I'm going to pass this over to the update portion of the BMW Update webinar, and that starts with Brian giving us an overview of the software developments, and general news with regard to the BMW product line. Brian? Did we lose Brian?
I believe we did.
Oh, man. All right. So, with Brian not being in that position, we will update the update section later. So what we're going to go ahead and do is we'll go ahead and move through. So Brian was going to go through the updates, which covered the software update that's coming out, the new models, and he'll discuss that when he comes in. And he wanted to emphasize that the updates will apply to both both operating systems or protocols, if you will, on the tool, and that's the legacy and the drive protocol. And for more on that, I'm going to pass it over to Brandon, which that will be this your section right here. Brandon?
Yeah, thank you, Eric. So I think Brian was going to cover some newly
He's
developed
back.
chassis. Ah, there he is.
Come on.
Good to join us, Brian. All right, I'll go back a slide here. We'll let Brian cover his topic about some new releases that we should have coming out soon.
Yeah, hi everybody. Yeah, just to go over the new releases we're going to come out with will be G20, G15, G29, F39, G05, G07. This will include live data, fault code read, CBS data, and small component activation. And this will work across both formats. This will be DrivePro ES and also on the legacy software. Just give you a heads up on that. Back to you, Brandon.
Awesome. Okay, so for those of you that are not super familiar with the DrivePro ES, this is something that I briefly covered last time, but we're still getting a lot of questions and confusion about it, so we wanted to touch on that topic again. The DrivePro ES has two complete software packages on it. We have the legacy software, which you could see in the top left corner, and that is going to be what most people are familiar with that were BlueBox or AssistPlus customers. And that can be reached using the small orange button in the left top hand side of the screen. And additionally, you have the DrivePro Diagnostic software, which is the newer platform, which is being heavily built as we speak. That is going to be the large button there on the center top left there where it says DrivePro Diagnostics. It's important that you technicians out there in the field are utilizing both softwares, as they both have a different set of strengths, as well as there is development in one that may not be in the other at this time. As Brian was saying, as we add new chassis, those shall be released for both the legacy and the DrivePro Diagnostic software. Another question that we've been getting quite a lot of has been with regards to CIP. CIP is going to be done through the legacy software. Again, that small orange button in the top left. Once a CIP order is created for a programming file, we are going to go back to the main screen here and go to File Manager. That is where we are going to send and download the orders that we have created through CIP. Okay. Brian has kindly added some slides for us to kind of walk us through the CIP process for both the E chassis and the F chassis. A lot of them will be simply prompts that you guys can read and follow, but we'll cover some of those now. As we go into the CIP menu, there's going to be some confusion on the customer's end about what to do in terms of programming or coding possibilities. We, with the DrivePro ES, as well as our legacy tools, BlueBox and AssistPlus, we have options. We have the option of coding or programming an individual control unit. We have the option of programming or coding a selection of control units, as well as doing a complete vehicle programming or coding event. The latter is something that should pretty rarely be used, in all honesty. Primarily, you guys will be using the individual and the selective coding and programming options. The key thing here is if you guys are unfamiliar or unsure, it's important that you just put in a tech support ticket with us and we can help you. If you're unsure if a module needs programming or coding after replacement, we can help you with that. Also, if there's a bulletin that calls for an eye level update and we don't necessarily want to program the entire vehicle, we want to program an individual module which will actually help with the fault code or the symptom that's being presented with the vehicle, that's where the technical support line is excellent, and we can always help you decide what options to choose. Here on the screen, you can see the CIP menu for e-chassis vehicles. And here, of course, you can also see the different options that you have. Program or code a selection of control units, or individual control units, or of course, coding of all control units, okay? Once you select the control units, let's say you selected a selection of control units, then you can choose body, chassis, drive, or you can physically select your individual control unit. When you move on to F chassis, the process is very similar, but the menus look a bit different. Here, of course, once again, you'll go into the CIP menu, you'll verify your version, accept the disclaimer, follow the prompts. Prompts are all very self-explanatory. Do read them, of course, and continue on through. You will need an F chassis programming tool for F chassis. This did come with all of the DrivePros. It will have a white USB adapter. I also covered that in the last webinar. If you haven't seen it, check that one out. Should be on YouTube for you. Here we have a prompt about the measures plan. If you have not yet created an order for coding or programming, you're going to obviously select no, or you will simply not get this prompt. If you've already created an order and you want to go back into CIP to carry out that programming or coding event, then you could simply select yes. And the process will continue through until you get to this page here, which is your status report. Read through the status report to see what updates are available or what coding or programming needs to be done if a module was replaced. And then simply close the status report using that X in the top right corner. And here we have a picture of the vehicle order screen, helpful if you needed to confirm option code numbers or anything like this. The tech support group can also provide you with vehicle orders for BMW if needed. And then we get to our menu here where we can change the measures plan, or we can select retrofits if we're performing a retrofit. And here we have a warning for retrofits and a various list of the available retrofits. With retrofits, I would highly recommend that you contact the technical support desk before going and pressing buttons, as this is an area where you could easily get in trouble if you're unfamiliar with what you're doing. Changing the measures plan would be if you wanted to create a measures plan for coding or programming in F-Series vehicles. And then, of course, you'll get your list of modules to scroll through and select what you want to do with each module. Pretty self-explanatory. Program would be, of course, to program and encode the module, whereas code would be if you wanted to simply encode the module without programming. Programming will, of course, require a software order to be sent, whereas encoding would not require an order to be sent. Save that measures plan, and once the measures plan is saved, you'll get a prompt. You'll read the prompt, confirm that's what you want to do, close it, and you'll get a message that an order's been created. Once you get that message, that's when you want to go into the file manager and actually send and download the order once it's available. With that said, I think I'm going to hand you back to Brian. He's going to cover a couple technical tips, and we'll go from there.
I'll take it. You're jumping in there early there, Brian. Hey, I'm supposed to be the host. What am I going to do if you guys skip over me? I'm gonna be well, I won't be on there next week. It'll be your turn, Brandon, to get skipped over. All right. Yeah, that was great information. We did cover that last month with the legacy button, and that's it's amazing how many calls we do get about that, and it's just navigation and getting familiar with the new user interface. I think it's, from my point of view, it's the legacy button is the old AutoLink emblem, which if you were a BlueBox user, that was to download software, not for diagnosis. So I think if you don't have a connection to that link, you don't know what it is. And if you do have a connection, it doesn't really line up with what you're used to it doing. So and that's great. We'll just keep covering it as needed. I expect that after this, we should probably see a decline in calls for that and just people getting some stuff done, which will be great. Thanks again for the follow through and the walkthrough on programming. And yeah, like Brandon said, any issues you guys have, if you're questioning something, it's much better to ask us on the front side than have us try and bail you out on the back side, especially when it comes to programming or changing options in the vehicle. And that said, more from the technical support desk. We have technical notes, some overview, some features, some workarounds. That's what this segment is for. And now it's Brian's turn. He's going to launch into talking to us about a couple topics that they're seeing as being pretty important. Brian, take it away.
Thank you. All right. The first one I want to go over is regarding the active rear spoiler on the Mini R59. The customer complaint would be the active rear spoiler fails to work, and the customer wants to rectify a John Cooper Works fixed spoiler and remove the active spoiler from the vehicle. To be able to do, first of all, normally it have a hall sensor fault, or it could even have a motor fault on the rear spoiler. Now, this is just a picture showing you of the spoiler itself. The interesting part would be if a customer does not want to replace the active rear spoiler, or he has removed the John Cooper Works, or wants it to remove the to avoid this, obviously what he'd have to do is, if he's going to remove the active rear spoiler, if he just unplugs it, obviously there's going to be a fault occur from it, fault code. So we need to go into and we need to disable it and take it out of the vehicle order. And to do that, obviously we have to run CIP. But then in the CIP, when you go into vehicle order, we need to add fix in there. So this would be the screen you would get, and you can see it says display vehicle order. So we go into the vehicle order and we have add under HO Wart, and we add in capital SFIX here. So we're going to add that, put that into the vehicle order. Once we put that into the vehicle order, we've added it. I just wanted to repeat that screen just to make sure you knew exactly what you had to do afterwards. And what you have to do afterwards is, once you go into HO Wart, you add this, you'll have a back button you'll press twice. If you press the back button 3 times, it will wipe off that HO Wart you've added. It will take it out. So if you went and continued on to the CAS, the FRM, the JBE, and the Combi, and the DSC, to actually encode them, you will then wipe out the message, the actual SFIX in the HO Wart, it would disappear. So we'll only press the back button twice to allow you then to continue on into the coding function, which will then allow you to code the CAS, the FRM, the JBE, the Combi, and the DSC. So just be careful when you're pressing that back button, you only press it twice, then continue on into CIP. So that's that job completed. One other one would be shorting of the wiring on IHKA. I just wanted to bring up an example here where fault codes are. These are the fault codes you would get, but I'll give you an example fault code. Example fault code is E70C21, mixing flat drive, right does not respond. So that's just one, what could be listed. As you can see above, there's at least 15 up there. You can see now the complaint. The complaint from the customer would be blower operation, erratic or no operation of the blower, erratic heater control panel operation, no direction control when using the air conditioning system. The blower fan runs on after the ignition is turned off. Climate control stuck in hot. And various LIN bus fault codes will be stored. So the LIN bus wiring is normally damaged behind the dashboard, and obviously the only way we're going to be able to fix is access actual wiring itself. And you can see here that the function has been revealed that the repair would be is to remove the top section like this. I know this is showing a right-hand drive vehicle, But as we know, BMW cars today aren't built necessarily to the normal standard. I'm not complaining about this, by the way. This is just how manufacturing has gone on. And you'll notice that there is lots of sharp edges around the heater box area, the tubing that runs across the dash panel. So you can see there's lots of sharp edges. So anytime any wiring harness is moving while in transport, then the vehicle then could have a short on it. And in this case, there is a short. So just a few pictures here just to show you. You can see here that the plug there that's going to the stepper motor, you can see that it has on the green with black tracer, there's a cut in the wire. There's also a slight chafing on the red wire as well. And here's just a simple diagram, wiring diagram for that particular stepper motor issue. And I've highlighted in red where you can see the black and green wire. So you can use a wiring diagram to obviously access this, know exactly where the stepper motor is if you wanted to be able to do it. And here we have the repaired issue. You insulate across any sharp edges. So in this particular case, the harness, you can see, is just leaned over the flap there, and you can see that that harness is being chafing through on that particular part, and that could chafe through anywhere, not just necessarily on the pictures we showed you. That could be anywhere. So over to Brandon for the next technical update. Thank you.
Actually, piggybacking off Brian's slide there, something that I've been seeing quite a few cases on come through on the tech support desk is also a chafed wiring issue. I've had several F30s either towed in because the vehicle owner cannot start the car, or driven in, but the vehicle will only start if the key fob is held against the emergency area for operation on the steering column where that small white writing is. Some of the vehicle owners don't know to hold the key up there. If you do hold the key up there, generally the vehicle will start. In the FEM, you will generally have fault codes, either one or both, for aerials. So basically for the antennas. I have generally seen this a lot with the front passenger compartment aerial. Its location is actually shown in the photo. It's right in front of the shifter, right before the cup holders. And that is a very common spot for wiring to rub through on a metal bracket as well. I try to circle the area where I've seen the most chafing occur, but as Brian stated, any sharp edges, metal, even plastic where a wire continuously rubs can become damaged. This is something that I've seen quite a bit of. So you guys definitely want to be on the lookout for wires, insulation, chafe issues, etc. I've also started to notice as we get into the newer bodies, and I think this is something that I will probably try to cover in a future webinar, I've been seeing more and more pin fretting issues. Pin tension, the size of the wiring has been reduced drastically, and the size of the electrical terminals are becoming smaller and smaller. So we're definitely seeing a lot of connection issues as well to watch out for. That being said, one of the next topics that I was going to cover was something that is probably pretty well known in the field already, and this has to do with the N20 and N26 timing chains. Pretty well known already. These engines have been out for quite a while now, but the main reason I wanted to cover this topic was because of the wide variety of failures, as well as some tech tips to help you guys stay ahead of the pack. So we're seeing 4 cylinders naturally, both the N20 and the N26 engine coming in with elongated timing chains, broken guide rails. They produce a variety, or can produce a variety of different symptoms, including rattling noise, sometimes scraping or scratching noises from the timing area. Oftentimes the chain is elongated. Another extremely common, probably one of the more common failures that I've seen, is shown in the bottom left corner with that guide rail. There's some plastic snap clips that break and the two pieces of the guide rail will actually come apart. And once that happens, you know, all hell breaks loose. Timing chain loosens up, chain ends up getting elongated and stretched out, noise, potentially cam crank correlation faults. I've seen other faults set from an elongated timing chain as well, such as air mass faults. So definitely something to look out for. These are interference engines. We do get valve damage and metal circulating through the oiling system. Definitely something to look out for. The one positive note with the timing chains is there is a very quick method. It's not the most scientific, but it's working out great. Literally open the oil cap and grab a pick or some kind of tool and just pull on that timing chain, rock it side to side, try and judge how loose it is, take a look at the guide rails. Also, I've been lately looking to see if the chain links have been updated. The newer style timing chains come with different chain links that are solid rather than two-piece links. So that's something you could check as well. And sometimes you can see scoring marks on the chain as well. When you do this job, you definitely want to replace as many components as possible. There's a nice little list here. Not included in this list from BMW are these central bolts, which you see on the right-hand side of the screen. It is extremely important to replace these central bolts when doing a timing chain job on one of these cars. This is the bolt that holds the Vanos actuator to the camshaft, or the Vanos gear to the camshaft, I should say. Inside of that central bolt, you have a piston with a ball spring as well as a filter screen. So it's very important to replace those central bolts when doing this job. Okay. There is a warranty on these timing chains. However, the warranty is only 7 years, 70,000 miles. So for most applications, this is going to be a customer pay job. But something to take note of if you are dealing with a lower mileage or newer vehicle. Here we also see the lower chain, which is the oil pump chain. This comes as a chain module. It is also very important to replace this chain module, as I've seen a lot of failures of this chain as well. All pieces come as one part. You get the tensioner, the guide rail, and the lower chain with the sprocket. So definitely important to replace that, as well as the center bolt for the crankshaft there, which is a one-time use bolt. If you guys need repair instructions, torque specifications, assistance in checking the chain, of course, again, put in a tech support case and we can help you do that.
All right, thanks,
Back
Brandon.
to Eric.
Thank you, Brandon.
You're welcome.
So Brian Fucci, and I hope I said that right, in the chat mentioned don't forget to rotate the engine over, which kind of goes with follow the repair instructions, which that's outlined in the repair instructions. One of the items that may not be in the repair instructions for the timing chain is priming the engine, which we discussed last month in our update. Can't emphasize that enough, how important it is on the N20s, N55 platforms, and even N63 variants to prime that engine oil circuit. If you have any doubt or you're concerned that you don't know if you should prime it or not, prime it, right? So yeah, follow the repair instructions, try and avoid any pitfalls. And then on those support tickets that Brandon's been dealing with the comfort access, that one's a rough one, and he said it should start with the emergency coil. I love that statement. Generally, it should. I don't often recommend holding parts as tools very often, but that's one of them that I would put in the toolbox. When I was at the dealer, we'd have people order new keys, and the advisor would send it to the back, and that's a no-charge customer courtesy deals. We'll initialize their keys for them. Doesn't take that long, right? Until it takes forever because the emergency coil doesn't work, and that's what's used. So we've seen enough of those emergency coils just being faulty that $30 or so to have one in the bottom drawer in case you need one for diagnostics, because it's kind of rough that's a very quick and simple way. There's other diagnostic procedures that are a little more in depth. We'll go into that later, probably at under a technical training update for body electronics. All right, and then and again the statement about the pins. F30 was about the first time BMW technicians were exposed to the term pin drag test, which if you were a Ford or a GM guy, you knew all about pin drag test. It was old school, but BMW's not really had those issues before. And now, yeah, that platform was really the first that we really started seeing connection issues at the pins, and it's only gotten a little worse. You know, not so much worse, but very problematic with the size of the pins, as Brandon mentioned. The G series cars, those pins are really small, so contact area is diminished. That makes that connection all that more important. Thanks again, Brandon. Now let's go on to diagnostic feedback. Last month I brought forward a program that we're going to call diagnostic feedback to get the we're offering you updates, and we'd like you to offer us some updates about what's going on in your world. You know, what's going on with your tool. If you see some layout of the PIDs, I'd like to see the PIDs organized by group in this section. So for this diagnostic, they're all together, or anything that you could think of that would make the tool a little more functional for you. Definitely send in a diagnostic feedback and put in a title diagnostic feedback so we're aware of it, and that it gets looked at appropriately. That said, last month I kind of made a commitment that we were going to pull some diagnostic feedback and offer up some rewards. Well, I didn't let anybody know that we were going to do that, and so those logs came in, got addressed by software, fixed, and then sent out or moved to the queue. My bad. My responsibility for doing that. So what we'll end up doing is from the attendance list last month, we'll go ahead and I will pull two, since we had 2 diagnostic feedbacks last month. We'll go ahead and pull 2 random winners, and they will receive some kind of special gift, which, man, the anticipation is just gonna drive you mad. You're not sure if you're a winner and when it's coming. A special award will be delivered by a paper crate. All right, so moving forward with diagnostic feedback, let's just talk about what that is and how things get developed from the AutoLogic standpoint, or sorry, Opus IVS standpoint, or old AutoLogic software standpoint. So when requests come in, we'll see the magnitude of the order of the request, right? So how many requests are we getting for this function, and it moves up exponentially. As that moves up, it sets a priority. Then they'll take and assemble all of the requests, and by order, we'll get a top 20 each month, and that's the development team, the development operations team. That's the task list that they work from when it comes to developing software and or features for the tool. Just so you have some insight on how that works. So if you want something, again, it's we used to depend on the user to guide the development of the tool, and we're asking for you to participate again in guiding the development of the tool. If you have something that you want to see on the tool, or just even rearrange it, or you're seeing an issue that you think needs to be addressed, definitely send it in, and that numbers matter. So this month we're going to have a diagnostic feedback request, and this is where we request for you to send in logs if you see incidents of the topic that we're going to talk about today. Some of you may have seen it, especially if you're heavy into programming. Your mobile guys probably see it a lot because they're hitting shops and pretty much doing a little bit of diagnosis and then doing some module programming. So reaching out to our users to assist us with the context. Like as we mentioned last month, we'll fix something for a line of cars, but there may be a variant or a context that isn't addressed in that fix. So if we say, hey, we fixed it, but you run into an instance where it's not, definitely send that in. So this month's diagnostic feedback is a situation that some of us have run across, and I'll pass it over to Brian, and he'll go over that topic.
Thank you, Eric. A lot of times we've had issues with CIP, and obviously these are all the things we have to look into. The more and more of these we get in, obviously the higher it becomes up the list, but we are aware of this particular issue. And that is the issue where we have one task has not been completed, or one dependent task has failed, and we want to get to the bottom of it. But just to go over a little bit, this is an order list of jobs within the measure plan that's numbered one, we're going to say 1 to X, that is needed to complete after the user presses the start button. So it has to look at all these different filing systems. Each job, must be met to a certain level before it can carry on. For example, we're going to take a job here as a DME, can only be started if the job prepare vehicle for program is completely successful. If it isn't completely successful, then we get that message. At the end of CIP, there is a report that's generated. I'll just go to the next screen to show that report. This is the report we normally get. This is something we are aware of. We know there's a problem, and we want to get to the bottom of it. And the only way we can get to the bottom of this is help from yourselves. As Eric was saying, the more of this you send in, the quicker we can get to the bottom of it. And this is not relevant to one particular job. This could be relevant to any job that you're carrying out under CIP for F&G series. So it's a big task for us to try and fix it, but we want to fix it. The only way we can fix this is with the help of yourselves. So as Eric was explaining before, as much as these you can send in as possible, and you might get to the top of the hit list when it comes down to gifts. I don't know. Eric will be the decider of that one. So I just wanted to give you an idea that could not be completed as at least one dependent task has failed. We've got to, as you say, we've got to get to the bottom of this, and we want to try and help everybody as quick as we can. But if you send in a log of that, we might be able to directly link into your tool and fix that issue. I can't say every time we can do it, but if you send the log in, it will get addressed. Thank you very much. Back to you, Eric.
All right, thanks, Brian. So again, if you're sending in a log and it's for an issue because you obviously need to get something fixed because you're trying to work on the car, it would be my inclination to send 2 if you're trying to also address diagnostic feedback. Send 1 in, and they'll probably combine them anyway. But maybe in the special notes, put in diagnostic feedback so that they're aware that you're also reporting on a subject that's been addressed, that we've specifically asked for help. And then, as Brian, he kind of alluded to, the hit list. Maybe some of you are going to get an old used ABBA Golden Hits dual CD that one of them's really scratched. You never know. If that's something that you really want, you might want to put that in. Make that a consideration when you send that in, or maybe not. All right. So that's going to go ahead and wrap up our update. We've done some updates. We've done some from the tech desk. We've talked about our diagnostic feedback. You guys have anything you want to add?
I just noticed that someone's requested on are we updating the software across legacy and across DrivePro ES? And for BMW and for other brands, but we're talking about BMW today, is that yes, both softwares will be updated. The legacy software will still continue, and it will work across both platforms. So whatever I want to put your worries at ease here, that both platforms will definitely be updated when the software is increased.
I think we briefly touched on that earlier, where Brian, you had mentioned the new chassis that were under development.
Yeah.
When those become released, they will be released on both platforms.
100%.
All right. So yeah, the updates across both platforms, development across both platforms. I mean, eventually the legacy will. Brian, would you agree that the intention is eventually they will merge together because they will become the same platform?
Yes.
That's the
Eventually
intention.
they will do. That's correct.
Streamline the process. Yeah. So and then at that point, that the software will flow across both naturally because it'll be the same. Kind of like I'll leave that one alone. No more. We don't need any more Star Trek references. All right. Now I'm going to go ahead and open this up to Q&A. We had a couple of really good questions here. I'm going to start with. It looks like Igor had one. Are we having a safety? So it looks like his question is about safety gateway modules, the SGW, and that BMW's they're not capable. We're not capable of unlocking some safety gateway modules and additional functions except for reading faults. That's a pretty interesting question. I'm going to go ahead and toss it out to Brandon and Brian for a second, but I just wanted to add some information on that. It doesn't really matter what tool you're using when it comes to safety gateway modules. One in particular that sticks out is, let's talk about the E85 Z4 safety information module. I don't care what you're using. The factory tool has issues opening that thing up. We've gotten several of them brand new that they're faulty, and they go through an issue at the dealer because often that's where they end up, and it becomes a headache for them. Sometimes we get through it clean, but often on situations like that, those modules are problematic. Especially new safety gateway modules in general on the newer cars are difficult to interface with. Especially, it's kind of like sometimes adjusting coding on those is like changing the oil on the car while driving. It can be a challenge to say the least. But that's just my insight on that. I'll go ahead and pass this over. Brian, Brandon, you want to add anything? Or take it away, Brian.
Well, I'd like to be more specific about what safety gateway module we're talking about.
Yeah.
What model we're talking about, because obviously for me to answer a question like safety gateway module is very difficult. But Eric, you came up with a great one. That is a classic. That module is classic for braking. And when you buy them brand new, they still are faulty. We could talk about EHC controllers exactly the same way. I know I'm diverting a bit here from a safety gateway module, but we need to be specific. For us to answer a question, we need to be specific on which module, which model of vehicle, which year of vehicle. We need to be specific. It's very difficult to answer that question. So, yeah, that's where I am. Brandon, do you have any?
I was going to agree simply that it's very, very dependent upon model series, as well as if you're dealing with some of the newer cars, the eye level of other modules that interface with that module is also important. So if we move away from safety gateway modules and just simply go to central gateway modules, it's very important that modules on the FlexRay bus are at the same eye step as the central gateway. So it's difficult to answer the question, but this is where the tech support line should come into play. When you guys have any direct questions about a particular VIN number or particular module, then put in a case and we can help you specifically with that request.
That's a superstar answer, Brandon, and that's really what it comes down to. Is just when you have a specific question, hit us up. We'll we'll address that specific issue. All right, we had Ronnie was asking if one day the system will be able to wipe out DME programming and be able to program or clone potential used modules. No, I'm just kidding. That's a pretty. I'm not going to be definitive about that, but you never know. But it's super unlikely. There are a lot of other things that I could forecast that would happen, which are also unlikely that might happen first. That's it's just not going to happen. That's not what this tool is about. That's another operation. That's another some people may consider that part of repair, but in the general sense of the approach, that's not normal repair. And to maintain consistency with the manufacturer's recommended practices, yeah, we're gonna try and stick to those repair instructions and guidelines as close as possible to avoid any unforeseen, unnecessary delays or consequences as we move forward with a repair that doesn't follow those guidelines. So that's just my take on it. No. There you go, Ronnie. Just kidding. Brian, you got to add to that?
The only thing I can add to it, you're absolutely right, Eric. Second-hand modules, depending what they are, some can be fitted, but there is a huge amount that can't be. And are we going to be able to edit those and change them? The answer is no. We'll never be able to do that. One, what are we trying to create here? We're trying to create second-hand modules for the end user to be able to use. We need to get permission from BMW to be able to do this. This is not something they're going to agree to. So we have a good relationship with BMW and we don't want to ruin it. The only good thing I can say coming from that, which is slightly related, is that we are working on F&G series vehicle order edit. So we aim to be the first company in the world to give you vehicle order edit for F&G series. So that's something we're working on. I just want to give you a heads up on. I can't tell you when it's going to be released. I don't know when it's going to be released, but we are working on it. And I think it'll be a great help to everybody working on F&G series when it comes to putting modules into the car. We can control it better. Back to you, Eric.
Brandon, you have anything to add to that?
I think that will be awesome when that comes to light. I think part of the problem with being able to unlock or program used modules, let's say a DME, for example, is the large amount of variance that goes into a particular control unit software. Being able to read the ISN number, change the power class, change the working hours of the engine, it just opens up so much liability, so much trouble, for our relationship with BMW, as well as issues with creating new problems with the car, tamper lights, fault codes in the DME that indicate incorrect data records, etc. So I just don't think that's in our wheelhouse as a company. I think that we have other very, very strong characteristics that we focus on, and that is just not something that we're currently looking into.
Yeah, just one other thing is that if we could edit the type criteria in the VO, we could then cause all sorts of problems between US vehicles, European vehicles, and when someone adjusts that without speaking to a technician or think of the safety aspect that's occurring here, we cannot condone changing that without speaking to someone. And if you did, and you went on and coded a module, you could code out the crash safety module. You could change the aspects of the crash safety module. There's all these things that we have to be careful with. So it's not something that we want to promote in any way or form, but to edit the VO on F&G series would open up another field to us working with technical support guys.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, and that comes back around to the safety gateway conversation or question we had earlier. And you don't know what the characteristics are of the module. I mean, most of the time in the event of faults, the default is no first and stage. It's all, and it usually if there's a fault, it's going to default to the most safety, which is blow off everything, which that could be problematic and dangerous as well. So Yeah, we're not going to get into it. It's not going to happen. And then along those lines, this is a great question. I love this. Somebody asked about tunes for Mini, and oh man, I'm telling you, I miss it too. The tune aspect. The tunes were pulled off the AutoLogic right as the 335D tune was available. Oh man, that was an awesome tune from AutoLogic. Um, if you didn't get to experience it, yeah, you never will. But yeah, Brian, what can you say? Are we any plans to bring back some tuning?
What minis are we talking about? Are we talking about R50 type mini, or are we talking about R56 and above?
I think in general, let's just throw it out there. Tunes in general. I know mini, the mini individuals are big into tune. The little cars, big tunes. That's and you just talked about big wings. I mean, we've got a theme going here, right?
Yeah.
Um,
The tuning part of it is something that we aren't looking into at the present time. To reopen the R50 series tuning, it's a possibility. That's all I can say. It's a possibility. I'll have to speak with people higher than myself to be able to say yes or no whether we could release that again. I don't see why we can't. It's just a matter of us now finding out from obviously our peers if we can then carry out and do this function. But to go on further with the later cars, as you know, the encryption changed on these vehicles, F-Series vehicles, the encryption changed. And the only way BMW knew that vehicle was being tuned is they knew that someone had stolen that encryption. And someone a while ago was prosecuted over that. So where we are at the present moment is tuning for the later vehicles is definitely not on the table.
all right, Brandon, you have any comments on tunes?
Not entirely. I think part of the problem there is simply emissions, right? We are a global company that not only deals with global emission standards, but statewide emission standards in all different states. And it just, defeats the ability of providing high quality tunes that are going to meet those emission standards. Again, just too many variations.
That's 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 it right there. I mean, the just the business of tuning. I mean, it is a business. As the former master tech for Dynan Corporation before they moved, that's an entire business model built around tuning. So, um, you know, we did offer some software adjustments when it was AutoLogic that were pretty impressive, and yet didn't push it outside the boundaries. But yeah, it gets muddy, at that point, and then responsibility. So who knows? The chances are pretty, I would have to say probably unlikely.
Eric,
But we'll help you fix a car. What's that,
what we
Brian?
could do is, what I could do is we could put this forward. So that in the next webinar, we can give an answer to tuning. I don't really want to answer the whole question right now because I don't have the power to do that. But let's not just forget about it. Let's look into this and see what we can do. And then in the next webinar, we can give that report of where we're going to go and if we are going to carry on with any sort of tuning.
All right, there we go. We'll go ahead and move it forward in a meeting and see where we get, and we'll put a pin in it and come back to it next month. And was it Brian on here that asked about it? I can't. Stoner maybe. Yeah, and then if it comes back and you get tunes, you may get an award like maybe a Beastie Boys cassette tape that's been half pulled out of the case. You never know. And some gum. All right. That is going to wrap it up. You guys want to say anything before we close out this webinar for this month?
The other thing I want to say is thank you for everybody for listening in. It's been a privilege for me. And as I say, what we'll do is stay safe. The climate it is today. And I look forward to speaking with you in the next webinar. Thank you very much indeed.
Brandon?
Thank you as well for watching. We'll see you next time.
Yes, you will. So next BMW update you can expect that Brandon will be hosting. I want to thank everybody for joining in, and I wanted to remind you, I should have been doing this throughout the webinar. This webinar series is going to change time slots. This month, we're going to stay with this time slot all the way till the end of the month. So the 4 we have this month will be at this time slot. Next month, please look at your local listings for times and availability of the webinar. I believe the consensus from the rest of the team in our meeting on Monday was that it's going to move to 6 p.m. Eastern. That will be that's the proposed and will probably be the finalized time slot in the future. So just be aware of that, and that's really due to the wonderful fact that we're starting to move back into normalcy for whatever for what that's worth and what that will be in the future. And we're starting to see car counts come up, and we're busy during this time, which is awesome. Thanks again. I appreciate having the ability to be in front of you and present this information and share with the automotive community in general. And look forward to speaking to you soon, seeing you soon. You guys stay safe, as Brian said, and let's do quality repairs. Thanks again, guys. Have a good one.
Thank you, lads.
Thank you.